Hi, this video is going to do a couple of examples for chapter 4, which is what's being used in week 3. This covers loops. So I'll bring this over. First one is pennies for pay. We're going to run a program that calculates the amount of money a person would earn over a period of time if his or her salary is 1 penny the first day, 2 pennies the second day, and continues to double each day. The program should ask the user for the number of days, display a table showing what the salary was for each day, and then show the total pay at the end of the period. The output should be displayed in a dollar amount, not the number of pennies. Okay, so let's go ahead and we'll work on this. Let's get Python started here. And then do a new file. Okay, so first thing we're going to need are we're going to need to initialize our pennies or the day for our pennies to 1. Okay, and then we'll just go ahead and do all the variables. So we're going to have day pennies, and we're going to initialize that to 1. Then we're going to have num days, initialize that to 0, and we're going to have total can be initialized to 0.0. So it's going to be a float. We're going to input how many days we want to run this. This will be an integer input, and we're going to enter number of days. Okay, and then we're going to print our headings. We're going to do this with day and then a tab, so that's a \t, and then pennies. Then we're going to print, and I'm just going to do this out here. We can adjust it later if we need to as a separator on this. Okay, let's do our for loop. For day in range, we go from 1 to num days plus 1. Okay? So if we start at 1, this will go up from 1 to num days, 1 to less than num days. And so then we want it to go up to including num days, so we have to add 1 to it. So we'll do that. Okay, let me bring my code up. So we're going to print do an f quote and then in curly brace day with a space and then a \t $, and then curly brace float of day pennies divided by 100, end curly brace, end quote, end parentheses. Okay. Then we do a total plus equals pennies, day pennies, because we have to add that into our total on this, and our day pennies are going to be times equals 2. Because remember, we're doubling our pennies every time, but we need to keep track of our total to keep adding these in, so to increase this every time. Okay. So then that's the end of our for loop. Back out here. So the total is going to be equal to a float of total divided by 100. Okay. So you get that taken care of on there, and then we'll do a print statement. Print f quote the total salary for, then curly braces, num days is colon and then $, curly brace, total, colon, comma. So in case we go over 999, we'll have a comma in there, 2F, end curly brace, end quote, end parentheses. Okay, so let's see how this works. I'm going to go ahead and get this saved. And then switch over to my directory. This is on week 3. I'm going to call it pennies. Give it the .py extension. And let's run it and see what happens. Oops, got an error in here. Oh, yeah, missing a parentheses right there. Because we have to put all that in there in that parentheses. So let's try this again. So I'm going to put in here 30 days, and there's our salary. It didn't put the commas in there like it did down here, but we didn't put them in there, so I'm going to fix that. Go in here, up here, and right out here, I'm going to do a colon, comma, dot, 2F. Okay? And let's try this again. I'm going to do 30 again. And there we go. And you can see after 30 days, we have 5,368,709 on there. And our total is 10,737,418. Okay? So you can see how this increases each time through here. Day 1 is 1, day 2 is 2, day 3 is 4, then 8, 16, 32, 64, 128, 256, and so on. And then it just goes up a lot after that. So it gives you an idea of how for loops work on here and how you have to start off with our day pennies equal to 1. So as we get in here, then we have to have something for it to calculate in here. Okay, and then and the multiply. We start off with 0. We do the multiplication. It's always going to stay 0. Okay. So let's do another example. And this one we're going to calculate out a factorial. And a factorial is a number, say like you want to do factorial 5. Well, factorial 5 is 1 times 2 times 3 times 4 times 5. And so again, the example in here is mathematics and notation, n exclamation point represents the factorial of the non-negative integer n. The factorial of n is the product of all the non-negative integers from 1 to n. So 7 factorial is 1 times 2 times 3 times 4 times 5 times 6 times 7, which is 5,040. So we're going to write a program that lets the user enter a non-negative integer and then uses a loop to calculate the factorial of that number. And then we'll display the factorial. So I'm going to open up a new file, and I'll go ahead and close this one off because I don't need it anymore. So we're going to start off with number equal to 0. We're going to do a while loop. So while number is less than or equal to 0, and I don't like the way it's doing this, so I'm going to change it right off the bat. Okay, this was an example I got from someplace else. I didn't look at it real close. We're going to start off with getting the value for number. So number is going to be equal to an int input and our non-negative integer. Okay, then we'll do our while loop. While number oh, I see what they did on here. Okay, sorry. While number is less than or equal to 0, we're going to print out a message that says error, the number you enter must be greater than 0. Okay. And then ask them to enter a number again. And change this to make it read better without the capital N on there. There we go. Okay, so now we're going to get the correct number on here. And then we can go ahead and process this. So we're going to set factorial equal to 1. And then we'll do our loop. Factor in range 1 through number plus 1. Factorial is going to be equal to, or times equals factor. Okay, so factor is going to start off at 1. Factorial starts off at 1, so it'll be 1 times 1. Okay, and then it will be 2. Factorial will be, or factor will be 2, so then it would take 2 times the 1 would be 2. And then factorial will be 3, and it'll be 3 times the 2 that we had will be 6, and then so on down through there as we go. So once we get all those taken care of, then we're going to print the value, print the result. And so we're going to print the factorial of the value for number is the value of factorial. Okay, so let's go ahead and save this. Save it as factorial.py. And let's run this and see if I've got any errors in it. Doesn't so far. I'm going to put in 5 because I know that should be 120, and there it is. It comes up 120. We'll run it again. And just think, remember what the 7 was, the 5,000. We're just going up 3 numbers here. I'm going to do 8, and look how larger it is, 40,320. So factorials increase very fast on these. So gives you some examples here of how to use while loops or and for loops. Use both of those in this one, a while loop here to make sure we input a number. We didn't test that out. Let's go ahead and do that real quick. Enter a non-negative integer, and I put in -4. It comes back and says error. The number you enter must be greater than 0. So now I can go ahead and type in 6, and we get a factorial of 720. Okay. So that worked too. So we got to see how to use a while loop and how to use a for loop. And the other one we used the for loop also. So hope this helps you out. Bye.